Hey, it's Deja, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the Earth Guardians. I am so awkward. My paper focuses specifically on Juliana versus the United States, which is a lawsuit brought forth by the Earth Guardians suing the United States government for its role in the current and future state of our environment. So what's the claim? Juliana v. US is the first step to the future of climate change action. And the question that I'm going to answer for you is why? So in order to realize why Juliana v. US is so important for the future, one has to understand the past. So my paper examines the history of the environmentalist movement in the United States and delves into the constitutional backing of Juliana v. US, using peer-reviewed sources by Timothy Hayward to show exactly how in line with their rights the Earth Guardians are in this suit. It then goes on to explain exactly why this is so important when going against the Trump administration specifically. Lastly, I'll delve into why it's so important to have youth voices heard within the realm of politics surrounding environmentalism. So the modern environmental movement spurred out of the civil rights movement of the 50s, and then it found its place at the center of the American conscience in the hippie 60s and 70s. It was among the civil rights movement that the environmental movement found tactics that they'd be married to for the next 30 or 40 years. So we're talking peaceful protests and sit-ins and things of that nature. It wasn't until about the mid-90s when the environmentalist movement started seeing some real evolution. So that was when all of these grassroots organizations started to become REJOs, or Registered Environmental Justice Organizations, or 501c3s, which are nonprofits. Before then, all of these grassroots organizations that were at the head of the environmentalist movement were completely free of any government involvement whatsoever. Now, the Earth Guardians organization followed that trend in the 90s, going from a grassroots organization that had a school in Hawaii to a full-blown REJO. And today they're made up of thousands of youth over 6 continents. And when you look at the Earth Guardians' history of unprecedented action, it really isn't surprising that Juliana v. US is their next step. So Timothy Hayward's paper, Constitutional Environmental Rights, A Case for Political Analysis, looks at environmental rights and argues that one can look at them as rights to life. It is extremely important to recognize that this is a clause within the Constitution because while we have an insane amount of laws in the United States, a lot of the things that we think are laws actually are not. They are what is referred to as norms. So there are situations that we have subscribed to over hundreds of years of practice, however, they are not actually set in stone. So it is especially important that the Earth Guardians have built this case on the back of the ironclad United States Constitution, because the Trump administration in specific has been taking advantage of these norms since they ascended to the office in January 2017. One such prime example of that being the fact that Donald Trump still holds all of his business holdings that he held before he was sworn in as President of the United States. Now, most would think that this would be illegal as it is a clear conflict of interest, but it's not. It's just a norm that when you're sworn in as president, you give up your private holdings. This is a marked and fear-inducing change in the political system, which is why how unprecedented Juliana versus the United States is necessary to face our unprecedented political situation. And equally unprecedented is the use of youths in a suit like this. I got for you. When you think about it, it only makes sense. Why not have the voices of the future be the ones fighting for their future? And legally, it's the only way that Juliana versus the United States works. Because when arguing Juliana versus the United States in court, the Earth Guardians are going to have to prove that either currently or in the future they will be directly affected by climate change. And while adults, if arguing the same case, could be argued down with the fact that they won't be alive to see these effects, all of the plaintiffs of Juliana versus the United States most definitely will. And beyond that, ideologically, youth brings something completely different to the movement. In his book, We Rise, Shu Tescott Martinez, who's the youth leader for the Earth Guardians, says something profound. Well, he says a lot of profound stuff. The kid's really smart. He's 17, he's spoken at the UN and a whole bunch of other places, and honestly, he says that the way that we understand power has immense implications for how we choose to organize. And how you understand power at each different stage of your life is extremely different, which stands to reason that then your approach to activism will also be different. And I believe that that's true in more ways than one. When you're 6, you think that you can still fly. And when you're a teenager, you think you are completely untouchable. By allowing more youth to get involved in environmental activism the way the Earth Guardians have, you apply a little bit of that to each action that you take. And Juliana versus the United States is the culmination of that. It is activism reaching for the stars. And right now, they're winning. And I think that's truly amazing. And furthermore, I think that it shows that Juliana versus the United States is blazing the path that we need to take to get to the future of environmental activism. Thank you.